one last question, just to get in sort of the personal side of Rick. Do you Netflix and chill?
Do I Netflix and chill? Like so many people, I got the Netflix, I just can't get around to doing it.
Okay.
So maybe I'm doing it wrong.
You got to take some time.
Yeah.
The Todd Shapiro Show.
Simon B Cotter is co-hosting today. You guys have worked together on previous engagements, haven't you?
Yeah, in Halifax.
That's right. And then we were Chippendales for a while. We did that. Yeah. That was a short gig.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
But we were good.
Rick Mercer, it's so neat, man. 14 years. 14 years of the
It's totally mental. It's totally mental. And, you start out with a show, you think that all you want to do is get through the first 6 or 7 and then not get fired. And then you make it to the second year. And then if that works out, you think, okay, maybe we'll get a lifetime of a show, which is like 3 or 4 years, 5 years. We're doing 14. It's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't end. And it wasn't always called the Mercer Report.
It was called the Monday Report. And then it was on Monday. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make sure they never move me. I always wanted to be on Monday, so I called it the Monday Report, and then they moved me to Tuesday, and then I had no choice. It didn't work out, my plan. But it's, you know what? It's the same people, essentially, that are on the show today that were on the show when we started, and that's why we've lasted so long, quite
Wow,
frankly.
no turnover. That means you must be a likable guy to work with. That's quite a compliment.
Maybe. There was one writer left, but he died. That was it. Other than that, generally, that's the only way out.
Do you ever have star spaz outs, Rick Mercer? Do you ever freak out on your staff and say, this is not done on time, where's the writing? No,
because I've been with these guys for so long. Do you know, like Tim Steves?
Yeah, I play poker with him every week.
You play poker with him, yeah. Does he tell you stories that I do that? Probably.
No,
Mercer's such a diva.
No.
But Tim wouldn't put up with that shit. It's not going to happen.
Tim, who you are his sole source of income, thinks you're wonderful. and absolutely a great guy. And I'm not just saying that because I need the poker profits. He's really a big fan of yours. Of yours. Yes, that's right.
And we've actually gone back before the Mercer Report.
Yeah,
we
that's
worked
right.
together at
22
this hour's 22 minutes. Yeah.
Forever. The American talking. Do you ever do that bit anymore?
No.
Now, wouldn't you love to do that bit right now?
No, I wouldn't want to be down there. For the first time in my life, I actually think, like, I'm glad I don't live in America. I'm glad I'm not American. I've never thought that, because America's a great country, right? And they're right there. They're our neighbors. I mean, it's nothing I really gave much thought to, but I've never thought, like, thank God I'm not those people. Now I do. That is so desperate and dark down there now. I'm glad I'm not covering it, too. You don't want to be covering that crap. Can you imagine? Because the stakes are so high. You know, a lot of people think, if you're in comedy, you must love Donald Trump, do you? Like, you'd love for him to win. No, I've never wished ill on my country or the world, because it might make, my life a little easier. I mean, that would be the ultimate narcissism, wouldn't it?
But how does he survive? I mean, if you think about it, he's threatened Hillary with the NRA. He's screwed up on trying to get us out of NATO. He wanted to give nuclear bombs to Saudi Arabia. Freaking didn't know that the Russians had invaded the Ukraine. Any one of these things would be enough to disqualify any other candidate, let alone video of them grabbing, saying they're going to grab a pussy.
Everything has
unbelievable.
changed. Everything has changed.
Nothing kills him. He's like a vampire.
It used to be, if you got caught lying, if you just got caught lying outright, you were done. Like, literally. I mean, there was always politicians lie. But if you ever got caught completely, you would be done. He's been caught consistently at things that would disqualify anyone, and it doesn't matter.
They said 78% of what he says is false. 78%.
Well, you know, he's making it up. It'd be just like if you started quizzing me on the Baltic States. Okay, I'll make it up.
Right.
And then, but yet there's no consequences.
And that's the thing.
You realize you just lost your Estonian following right there. Like the whole thing.
But in the sort of this 24-hour news cycle, the way the world works these days, it's so rapidly changing and stuff. People don't care. And, I'm not going to stereotype it to Americans and Canadians in general, but we really are concerned with sort of that next headline, and it goes away. So Trump, in a way, and listen, I would not vote for Trump, but he's playing the game. He figured out the game that it doesn't matter. And it's, one of your rants talks about Rick Mercer, about how it's sort of like a reality show, but it shouldn't be a reality show because, this is how it can actually affect your entire life. Let's not look at it this way, people. But in a sad way, he's made it like that, I think, on purpose. I think he does it on purpose.
It's the new way of the world. Like, we have a conservative leadership race in Canada right now that I think in many ways could start to mirror what you had in the United States for the Republicans, because they've got, now it looks like the Conservatives could have have like 14 people on stage
Wow.
the first night of their debate. Well, if you got 14 people on stage, the only way to get attention is to be outrageous. You know, and Kelly Leitch is one of them. And Kelly Leitch, this kills me because she is an accomplished orthopedic surgeon for children, and yet she's a politician. And every time she opens her mouth, she says ridiculous things about immigration and everything. It's like, why don't you shut up and go fix a child's bones? You can do that.
That's what you were good at.
Most of us can't do that. We don't bring that to the table. And most people in politics, they can't do anything else. It's like show business. What would you do? What would you do?
Well,
not fix children's bones.
It's funny. It's how I feel about PK Subban getting all the attention. I'm like, leave that to the entertainers. You're just a hockey player, but because he's so outrageous. But I do understand with what you're saying, Rick Mercer. And that is the way. I mean, whether it's like these alt-right people or that type of attention seeking is the only thing that will get shares, likes, retweets, all this type of stuff. Which I'm still not sure. Does that lead to the popular vote? Because at the end of the day, you go into an anonymous polling station and then you do it. So. Do we care much about polling or what sort of the internet shows and what people are wanting to post on their Facebook pages?
There's
and stuff?
been lots of instances where the polls are wrong, right? Brexit, right, in the UK. I mean,
but Brexit was a tie. People keep going back to this Brexit. Brexit was a tie. People forget it was 49-49 with 2%. But everybody said, "Oh, that 2% is going to go the one way." It didn't. It went the other way. So it was very, very close. Like at one point, Hillary had a 7-point lead.
It was close, but it was conventional wisdom among the left, among the educated, among those people, the elites, for lack of a better term.
Meaning people who read.
Yeah, yeah. That it just would never happen. Yeah. And this is exactly what you're seeing in the United States, right? People are like, yes, but it's Trump, but he's not going to get the nomination. And they were all fine with him as long as he was just like, a fringe candidate that was bringing entertainment, but... Anyway, the numbers, there's been, in Canada in the last number of elections, there's been all sorts of instances of people who,
Well, Trudeau wasn't supposed to have the landslide that he had.
No, I didn't think he was going to have it until the last minute. The only person who ever told me, like, oh no, Trudeau's going to get like a total majority, is this like stoned kid at a cafe I go to. And I'm like, there you go. There's this 19-year-old stone guy saying Trudeau's going to win a majority. And there I am with my years of political acumen. I'm saying,
and a newly bought ounce in your pocket.
Young man, I'm telling you, he's not going to get a majority. It just doesn't add up. It's impossible. And sure enough, he got a majority.
Well, a lot of the young voters went out, which made it a big difference in that election. It's funny with the WikiLeaks happening for Hillary Clinton, which is sort of trying to bring her down, and the whole email scandal and all this kind of stuff. I actually think that's going to help Hillary. Most people say it's going to hurt her. And the reason being is for that sort of reason alone, which is, people always thought Hillary's just going to win it. No problem. It's not going to be an issue. So now that they might think Trump will have a chance, because if there is scandal with Hillary leading up to the last couple of days, which we're at now, maybe then they're going to get off their asses and make sure they go and vote and put her in.
That's what they need, motivated voters, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's hard to get motivated for her because she's not inspiring. She's got people, Michelle Obama, who's inspiring, Sanders, all her surrogates are inspiring, but when she speaks, it's not inspiring. But what look at what she's running against. Like, Trump doesn't seem to say anything that is disqualifying. And the one thing I actually stared at the television when he said was he would lock her up. Yeah. He would lock her up. This is in a democracy. On stage, and you're saying, I plan to be a dictator and put you in jail if I'm elected. Right. And nobody called him on it. It was like, that was interesting that he said that.
He said the same thing about the media, right? He pointed at them and he told them, like, some of you are going to jail, and everyone, whoa! Yeah. The other thing about the motivated
That's why you're not going to the States, right? You just don't want to be on the list. That's it. Absolutely. You would not last well in prison. You're a good-looking guy. You would not do well in prison.
Although I'm old now. Maybe I would. And I can afford cigarettes. So But about getting back to the motivated voter, this is something we don't understand. I happened to be in New York City the day that Obama was first elected president.
Oh, wow.
So I was talking to cabbies and everyone, and people were saying, like, you're talking to a cab driver, and he's like going, oh, I'm voting. I'm definitely voting. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Did you vote yet? And he's like, no, I got in line this morning for 3 hours, and I had to finish my shift. I had to come back, and I'm going to go back this afternoon. I've cleared it if it takes 4 hours. Like, you're talking people in line for 3 hours, and they don't get to vote?
A man of color, I'm presuming?
What's the longest you've ever waited to vote in Canada?
25 minutes.
Me too. 25
minutes.
Yeah,
exactly. That would discourage me for sure. I mean, people got to make money.
4 hours?
Exactly.
Come on, you got to go to work, right?
Not in a white neighborhood. if in a Hispanic neighborhood or a black neighborhood, I guarantee your driver was a person of color, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's like one polling place for four sections and then 2 polling places in the white neighborhood. They've gerrymandered that thing so brilliantly.
They also have challenges, right? People can go up and challenge the
Like
process.
Wipeout?
Something like it, but they can go in and challenge, and then like that just stops everything for 30 minutes while they double check. And
Which
they just have people there.
even longer in the states that have open carry. It really sort of extends it. A guy with
right.
an M16 on his shoulder.
I know.
It's
Rick-
challenging.
Rick Mercer hanging out with us. Would you have any suggestions on how to help voting in general, Canada and the States, whatever, to help that process?
You know what? This is an interesting subject in Canada because, well, I don't know if it's interesting, but certainly,
I find it.
the Liberals said that that last election in the past was the last election that was going to be done under first past the post, and the NDP were on side with that. So now there's going to be electoral reform. Personally, I don't know what the rush is. Personally, I don't really know what's wrong with the system that we have, but. And I think it's okay. The way we vote is okay. I don't like the idea of online voting. I think it should be explored, but I don't think it's the solution.
Too many ways to sort of rig or hack that. Is that why? Maybe not enough.
The big thing about voting is you can go in and you just vote however you want to vote. But there's a lot of guys out there. They go like, I got 2 sons and a wife, and we're all voting this way, right? And then you all sit down at the dining room table, and suddenly Dad is standing over your shoulder.
That's how I got my voting license.
Well, exactly. The kid
serious.
next door did my voting license. That's how we all did it, right? And that's no good because
You're right.
how many families are there where the wife says, "Oh yeah, honey, I'm voting conservative," and then no, I'm voting something else or whatever, right? So until they can figure that out, I don't see how you can get past the privacy issue.
Yeah, it's got to be through like a webcam or something, but then that could get creepy too. So
Well, you're right. Maybe that's the solution. I mean, but how do you do it so that someone is not standing over you? I mean, personally, I don't care if my spouse is there, but then I don't have an abusive spouse. But if you had an abusive spouse,
It wouldn't be good.
And what would your spouse say?
Either way.
That same question.
I know.
Let's just say it wouldn't be good if you had an abusive spouse, even if you weren't voting.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Rick Mercer, the Rick Mercer Report, Season 14, which airs every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on CBC, as you know, and 8:30 in Newfoundland. We're still trying to figure out that time difference change. What an exciting time. You're on episode 3, aren't you, tonight? Is that correct?
Episode 3 or 4, something like that?
Episode 3
David,
or 4?
what is it, 3 or 4? I think it's
4. My apologies. I
It's
thought
a barn burner.
yeah.
The Morden Corn and Apple Festival. That's right. Let it
You
sink
get
in.
all the biggies.
Let
You
it
get
sink
all-
in.
Corn and apple
Corn
festival?
Is this-
and apple. They give
oh
away
my
40,000 cobs of corn, and I was there.
Oh.
It's a big deal. Morden, it is the biggest parade in Manitoba. It's like their Pride Parade, except they're proud of corn. It's tremendous.
Are you the head shucker? Come on, say it. Say the words. I was the
shucked.
head shucker.
I came and I shucked, and I got in the parade. It was great. And then I trained with search and rescue dogs, but we don't have to talk about that. I'll just say there's puppies involved, and everyone loves puppies, right?
So you're literally going with apple pie and puppies. This is how you're boosting your ratings.
Corn. Because we didn't find any apples. We went to the Corn and Apple Festival.
There's no apples?
No apples.
no apples.
Is there
and then
that
when you
much
asked
corn?
about it, like, what about the apples? They were like, okay, there's a guy here asking about apples. Like, it was a weird thing. But corn, tons of corn.
Can I ask what accent that was supposed to be?
That was
Manitoba accent.
That was Manitoban.
Oh, okay.
If you were a Manitoban, you'd know that I nailed it.
You got it. You got it.
nailed it.
Now, Rick Mercer, is there ways to enjoy corn just from the unconventional ways that we might not know of, other than sort of
Nothing I
just,
found.
Okay.
I asked a lot of guys how they like to butter their corn because I thought that might work, turn into something, and it did.
Okay.
They had a lot of,
Yeah.
Sure. But
this is my gig. This is what you do. You go out there. You talk to the people about buttering corn.
Yeah.
From coast to coast to coast.
Well, how fun is it for you for 14 years now to continually meet Canadians from coast to coast, as you mentioned, and really they're, human beings are very interesting creatures.
Some people would probably hate it,
I see.
but I like it.
Well, you're a chameleon. You adapt.
I like it. I like the part where you're at the airport at 5:30 in the morning. I don't mind that. I don't know why. I shouldn't, because it would drive most people crazy. And I like going to a corn and apple festival. Just as soon do that than go shoot with a rock star. And I get to do that too, right? But
Yeah.
that part, like hanging out with an oyster fisherman or like a farmer or whatever, that's an important part of the show. And I've always liked it. And I've always felt that we've had a clear lane in a way. Like no one else really does that. I mean, some country Canada shows do and stuff, but in prime time, no one was really doing it for a long time.
Are you amazed by not only just all the different idiosyncrasies that we have as people, but the differences that Canadians can be from, very conservative to just sort of, very free-spirited? You meet all types. Does that sort of amaze you how there's such extremes on human beings and Canadians?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're so bloody big and there's so few of us. And you forget, we all live in a bubble. We were doing a shoot just the other day and, you're just having the greatest time. And then we were grabbing a bit of lunch and I won't say where it was, but we were grabbing a bit of lunch and someone's like, we're about to kind of eat. And then the guy stands up and goes, just so you know, we pray around here before we eat. And like me and the guys that I travel with, we all like got a slice of pizza in our mouth going, oh yeah, of course. And we lay it down and then we all stood around in a circle and had a prayer. And then you realize, all kinds, all kinds of people. But generally everyone is happy to see us coming. And I think that's because we've been on the air for so long. They know we're not out to mess with them in the way.
You're never mean-spirited.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we don't mess with people.
Yeah.
And even if people say something kind of stupid that you could put on TV and get a laugh out of it, we don't go there. I mean, I understand that some people do that, but that's not what we do, right?
But after 28 years of touring, and we've all been in the same tiny little towns, big cities, every place. Would you not agree that there's whether conservative, liberal, no matter what, there's a basic decency to Canadians? Like that's the real difference I find when I tour in other countries. I've worked in 60 different countries. Canada, whether they're like, our conservatives are not like American conservatives or even British conservatives. And we live in a sort of a smaller spectrum. There's a basic respect and decency in this country that I have not experienced in any of the other countries or any of the other places I've been, big cities or small cities.
And Simon B Cotter, you nailed it in one of your. I watched one of your YouTube videos where it wasn't necessarily a comedy routine.
Did I have pants on?
Yeah, you're wearing pants and you look real
one of
good.
the comedy ones.
But it's about self-deprecation, I believe. We can be very self-deprecating, can't we, Rick?
Self-deprecating it's my favorite trait in a human being, and it's a great trait in a country, and we have.
Well, that's because you're an ass. You'd think that.
Of course, but people who don't have that self-deprecating chip, you don't really want to be around them. And certainly, if that's a national character trait, that you can be self-deprecating, that is only to be admired.
I think you'd agree with me. The hardest place to do comedy in Canada is Newfoundland because everybody's funny. Everybody thinks fun of themselves, and
everyone I went to school with is funny. I mean, they find it funny that I'm the one who went into comedy. Yeah. And I guess again, it's like, well, I guess he couldn't get into engineering school like us.
The least funny guy is making a great living.
That's what happens.
How would you suggest to other people? I look at America, and they do not know how to laugh at themselves. A lot of them. I know I'm stereotyping, but it's true. Like they have there's almost too much patriotism where they can't sort of take the piss out of each other and do so in a great way. It gets too negative. They're fighting. So we talked about that with this election. It's smearing. It's terrible.
We have to stand on guard. Not to use a phrase, but we've got to be very careful because anything that can happen in the United States can happen in Canada, right? And it's like nationalism. We always prided ourselves on not waving the flag to the extent that the Americans do. But yet sometimes you see that happening. A friend of mine was on the bus going up to Whistler during the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and he was there with his girlfriend, and it was a late night, and they were coming back, and it was a great day at the Olympics, and all these guys started singing "Oh Canada," and he thought, "Isn't that great?" Now everyone's singing "Oh Canada" on the bus, right? And his girlfriend's kind of leaning against his shoulder. And then someone's like, he sang "Oh Canada," and then they decide to sing it again. And then they're like, "How come you're not singing "Oh Canada"?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I sang "Oh Canada." He's like, "Don't you love Canada?" Like, this guy happens to have a gold medal. Like, he's competed for Canada, right? And he's sitting on a bus getting nervous because like 5-6 yabos are saying, "Why aren't you singing "Oh Canada"?" And there's a fine line between that and the scene in Cabaret where they're going, "Tomorrow belongs to me." I mean, nationalism can get scary, and we're just as susceptible as anyone else.
Well, the way I look at it is I go, if you're watching an American TV show, it'll say, somewhere in the sitcom space, where else in America can a guy say that to his boss and not get fired or not go thrown in jail? And every American at home goes, yeah, where else but America? But in Canada, we'd watch that and go, Sweden, France, Germany, like that. Yeah. They really think that they invented democracy, they invented freedom, they invented
bacon. They invented bacon.
They have the best airports.
Yes.
They go like, where's the best airports in the world? Well, Atlanta. Obviously Atlanta, and then go, who has the fastest trains? America. They just believe that to be true. Whereas we don't think, we know we don't have the fastest trains.
Dubai's airport is the best hotel / mall I've ever been in, and they also have an airport attached, and then you go to the JFK and you just go, my God, this is third world,
Rick Mercer's hanging out. Simon B Cotter. It's funny because it is America. The one thing, and it's sort of back to Donald Trump. The only thing that maybe is good is about that freedom of speech stuff. That he says what he wants, call him a jackass, but at least it's encouraging people to still say what they want. Does that affect
My grandfather had Alzheimer's. He said what he wanted. It doesn't make it good.
No,
it doesn't make it smart.
I mean, there isn't. No. I'm not saying that's smart. It's at least to be able to have it in media. I think is important. I wanted to ask Rick though, for the 14 years that you've done the Rick Mercer Report, was sort of this new world where you got to kind of tread water carefully, and we're all sort of hypersensitive on certain issues. Have you filtered yourself? Do you ever put on the handcuffs and do things that you wouldn't, that you did 10 years ago that you wouldn't do now?
I think that I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but probably yes.
Okay.
And I've been at this long enough that once upon a time you kind of got a feeling the next day what people thought of your stuff, but they didn't when it aired, but they couldn't tweet you right away. But I'm really bad at guessing what's going to upset people. Like I'll often think, well, this could ruffle a few feathers. Now, bearing in mind, I'm on at 8:00 and I'm a family show.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I don't like to use the term self-censoring, but I'm very aware of the fact that I'm a family show. But like I ate a sea urchin like a couple of days ago, and like I got mail. People were like, I can't believe I was watching television and you butchered a beautiful creature on television. I'm like, I don't know how beautiful. It had spikes on it. And plus I ate it and I was with a Haida chief. I mean, this is what they do. They, it's like eating an oyster. Like who's upset? But yet tons of mail. So you never know.
Everyone
I got
get
mail.
Actual mail?
Oh yeah. I got.
I think that's how you know that it's not really that bad.
Oh,
People are still sending you
the
mail?
handwritten. No, I didn't mean actual mail. But we get those too.
Okay.
Something I didn't expect. Someone emailed me recently and they said, you know what? I've been watching you for years with my daughters, and I finally have to email. When you are referring to crustaceans, you naturally refer to them as him or he, and that's not right.
Wow.
You should determine the sex of the crustacean, and then it could be a him. And I'm like, how many letters a day do you write? Like, if you're that upset because I referred to a lobster as he's going to taste good. Why did you do that? So you never know what's going to upset people.
Was the return thing SpongeBob SquarePants? Was that the actual? Was that the actual?
His email address was a leading bank.
Right.
It was like at fill in the blank of a leading Canadian financial institution.
Oh my goodness!
I know. I was a little surprised.
Well, are they a sponsor of the show? Because then you make sure that you say he and she next time, or they're.
I think it was actually pizza. That's what I heard. I heard pizza, which is delicious, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a piece of pizza occasionally. I wrote him back and I said, sorry, I didn't realize I've done that in the past, and I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I tell you, next time you see me with a crustacean, I'll be saying, she looks good.
I'm offended.
Yeah.
You can't win them all. Rick, I don't even know the time because our phone's on peaks.com. We got a few minutes here. Rick Mercer, 1.56 million Twitter followers. That's a small army of supporters, of people who love you, have been following you, and go and do what you say. Do you use that to motivate for political speeches? Do you use it kind of to have an agenda?
I don't use it as much as a lot of people do, which I think is one of the reasons people don't stop following me. Like, I don't bother them.
You don't piss them off.
I try not to use it only to promote the show, but I do say a new show is on tonight, and I go through phases where I use it a lot. And whatever's bugging me, like everyone does Twitter. But I'm not a guy who sits down and says, like, I'm doing 6 tweets a day like the people who are really good at it.
As a comedian, I have to ask you, because anytime I meet anybody and I consider you a Canadian celebrity, a landmark, who were your comedy influences?
You probably wouldn't know the Wonderful Grand Band because that was purely a Newfoundland TV show, but they were a CBC production that only aired in Newfoundland, and they were comedians. Tommy Sexton and Greg Malone, who went on to star in Codco, so they did have a national presence at one point, but they were. Like, the world stopped in Newfoundland when that show came on, and for me, it was like everything was different after that aired, because they were doing Newfoundland comedy. It was about Newfoundland. They were down the street. It told me, oh, you could go into show business if you want. There are people in your own town doing it. That was the big one. SCTV, obviously. We didn't have a television growing up. Like, my parents actually believed television was bad, and they wouldn't get a television until they could afford a piano.
Now that they see you on, what do they think of television?
Well, we got a piano, and I resent the piano to this day. But so Saturday Night Live, not so much. That was later in my life. But as a kid, SCTV certainly, and the Wonderful Grand Band.
Would you ever go into politics, Rick?
You know what? If you'd asked me 15 years ago, I might have said someday, like when I'm retired. But I'm less interested now than I ever have been. But I think, you know, if you love baseball or you write about baseball, in the back of your mind, you always have that fantasy. What if someone asks me to be the general manager? Or what if someone says, you know, you're gonna pitch? You know, it's like you kind of think, I could do that better than these guys. But I have less of an interest now. I don't like this system where everyone bows down and worships the leader of the party. And you just do what they say no matter what. I couldn't function like that.
Most people do that in everyday job, but you know you've been doing it long enough that you don't have to do that with your bosses, I'm sure. So
I'm lucky that way.
You are very lucky that way. The Rick Mercer Report is tonight, season 14 and episode 4 at 8 p.m. all across CBC. Everyone loves Rick Mercer. It's always a huge privilege for me to sit and speak with you. It's always quite rewarding, and I'm very grateful for you to pop in on the program here. There's so much I wanted to talk about, and I know you got to run, but one last question, just to get in sort of the personal side of Rick. Do you Netflix and chill?
Do I Netflix and chill? Like so many people, I got the Netflix, I just can't get around to doing it.
Okay.
So maybe I'm doing it wrong.
You got to take some time.
Yeah.
You take some time and maybe do it after the Mercer Report tonight. At Rick Mercer on Twitter, going out to his huge following. And what's the I actually don't have the website. Is it just...
it's rickmercer.com.
rickmercer.com for everything. rickmercer.com. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing all about the corn and you hanging out with the British Columbian Search Dog Association tonight.
Thank you.
At 8 p.m.
The Todd Shapiro Show. Turn up your speakers, especially if you're over 65. SiriusXM 168, Canada Laughs.